Welcome to the BodkinShow. Welcome to the Bodkins Show. I am that dude, Bodkins. Welcome. Couple house cleaning stuff first. We are on the Let's Talk Sports Network. So if you're joining us, I appreciate it, as you always see me on the Let's Talk Sports Network. Also on my own channel, the Bodkins Show. So make sure you're checking out all the things on Let's Talk Sports, the Bodkins Show. Also, my main guys over there at Sports Buffoons as well. I'm always on there on Mondays. So we're always going to be now streaming on Let's Talk Sports. So make sure. Dan's chiming in here. We're having trouble streaming to Switch. This may be an issue on Switch's end. So, hey, appreciate it, Dan. Thanks. Cancel. We are learning new things here on this program. But hey, it is UFC London card. While it's not a pay-per-view, it's damn near good enough to be a pay-per-view from top to bottom. So we're bringing the boys back. We're putting the belt on the line. We're going to be making this picks. We're going to be breaking it down. So as with me, as always, my main man out of the hooker's basement, Craig, talking all things, knows all things Chicago sports. Make sure you're following him. And as always, as well, the reigning defending champion, Mr. Smoking Amigo, Kenny Miller. Welcome, boys. Kenny's got the belt. He is ready to go.
I told you that belt was mine, Craig.
All right. Welcome, boys. It is UFC London card. Before we start breaking it down, let's talk a little bit of this featherweight division. Last Saturday's card, we saw kind of a lackluster main event as Brian Ortega gets hurt. Yair Rodriguez wins. Yair was told before the fight that if he won, that he would get a title shot, but that doesn't look to be clear. Volk has got the broken hand. He has come out and said he's okay with an interim title. There's so there's Yair, there's Josh Emmett, there's Arnold Allen, and now Mr. Triple C himself is talking about coming in and taking that featherweight belt. All while at the same time, Volk's got the broken hand, and he's talking about going to the lightweight division and taking that title. And we'll talk about that title here in just a little bit as well. So Kenny, what do you make of this featherweight division, and what should the UFC do here?
Well, I think it makes sense with Volk being hurt. He obviously said he's okay with the interim belt. He's kind of said the whole time that he wanted to fight Charles for the 155 belt. So it opens up a 6 to 12 month gap in that division where you can figure some things out with Yair and Emmett. I know Yair was kind of promised a title shot, and really, if he beat Ortega, it made sense. But yes, it was a win, but to win the way it was, I don't think you can really give a guy a title shot off that. I don't think you can guarantee a guy a title shot off that. I think Emmett going the distance with Calvin Kattar the way he did was more impressive just because it was an actual fight. So I think you kind of let that kind of sort itself out, let Volk get healthy, go fight Charles, make some money, and then come back. But really, I think the interim belt there kind of works out the best. And then there's kind of a lot of fights below them. They're going to figure themselves out too. Ortega's going to have to come back and fight somebody because he's still in the mix. You know, he's still 2 fights away. It's unfortunate what happened. He did say that he was winning every minute of that fight, and I think he needs to rewatch that. But I do think that once it got to the ground, I mean, he was going to do what he needed to do. So Ortega's still dangerous. Max is probably going to leave, so I think he's kind of out of the mix. But there's definitely a lot of fights down there to make. But Yair and Emmett for the interim belt, and then winner gets Volk is kind of the best thing to do kind of early next year, I think, or middle of next year.
Craig, what's your thoughts here, man?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Kenny. I've kind of been saying just kind of when we talk, since Volk beat Max, that I think Volk's not going to fight again until he tries to get Charles, and which now looks like it would be the Charles or Islam winner. And And I think, kind of like Kenny said, I don't think you can give Yair the title shot the way that the Ortega fight ended, because I'm kind of in the same boat. You never know how that fight was going to go, man. The deeper it goes, the more it gets on the ground, the more I think it would have favored Ortega. So I don't think that you can just give Yair the clear-cut title shot. And I think Yair and Emmett makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like Kenny said, Max is out. Ortega's out for a bit with the shoulder. And if Volk's okay with an interim belt, that's the interim belt fight that makes the most sense. Putting Yair and Emmett up against each other. And kind of like you said, Triple C is wanting his shot at Volkanovski. And from what I read, Dana is saying he wants Triple C to fight for the bantamweight title before he fights Volkanovski. So, you know, maybe Triple C gets the winner of TJ and Aljo. And then, you know, maybe Volk gets that winner. Who knows when Volk's actually going to fight, you know, put the featherweight title on the line. So I feel like there's got to be an interim belt put in somewhere in there, and Yair and Emmett makes the most sense.
Yeah, Volkanovski was on the MMA Hour, and he pretty much said he's okay with the interim belt, because the interim belt, that's only like belt versus belt. So that's just more money, bigger pay-per-view. So Volk's all about that. I think there isn't a clear number one contender in this featherweight division. If you look at it, because Yair didn't have the signature win against Ortega the way he needed to, Josh Emmett is coming off a, you know, questionable win against what's his name, Kenny? That's your guy.
Calvin Kattar.
Calvin Kattar, thanks. My brain drew a blank. Yep, against Calvin Kattar. And then you're having then you have Arnold Allen, but he doesn't have that big signature win either. It'd be great if Arnold Allen was on today's card and was fighting a top featherweight, but he was on the MMA Hour as well and said he's been hurt. His hands have been almost like broken, but he's almost ready to go. So you have those three guys, plus you have Brian Ortega, and it hasn't been reported whether he needed shoulder surgery, but he did state last Saturday that that's a possibility. He's already had two, so that's a lingering issue for him. And then, you know, as Kenny alluded to, Max Holloway has gone out this division, and it's funny because, you know, Volk's talking about going to lightweight. Well, he might be meeting Max there at the lightweight eventually. It's just, you know, Max can't get past Volk, it seems like. And so that featherweight division, we could be having an interim title. And I'm okay. This is one of the few times I'd be okay with having an interim title, because there is no clear cut number one. There's no clear cut. You know, Volk is hurt. He's talking about going to the lightweight division, which brings me to our next topic here. Perfect segue. So the lightweight title will be on the line in October, as a slew of fights have been, you know, advertised and booked here. I mean, they're not really signed necessarily, but they're on the schedule and ready to go. It is going to be Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. That fight has been announced. We have the Nate Diaz final fight here in the UFC, is fighting out his last fight on his contract. It looks to be leaving. He's going to be fighting against Hamzat. You have Usman versus Edwards coming up. We also have the Sean O'Malley, the Sugar Show, taking a huge leap in competition, fighting the former champion Peter Yan. You have Aljo versus TJ. You have Muhammad versus Sean Brady. So Craig, which fight that has been announced, or maybe I didn't list the fight, which fight are you looking forward to the most here that was recently announced?
So those are a lot of good fights, man. There's a lot of good fights coming up and a lot of fights to be excited about. But the one that, when it was announced, got me real excited is the Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev fight, man, because that's just, both those dudes are so dangerous, kind of in the same way. And Islam has kind of been that dominant guy on the ground, but Charles has kind of even more been that dominant guy on the ground. And Charles has shown that he can take punches and he can play a little stand up too, man. And I don't know, man, that fight, whenever it was announced, that fight got me excited, man. I cannot wait to see that fight.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, Charles said yesterday in the presser He said, if Islam's known to be taking shit to the ground, guess what? Hey, does he want to do that with the all-time UFC submission champion in Charles Oliveira? Because I can tap him out and put him out. Kenny, which fight are you looking forward to the most?
All right, so Charles and Islam, what's going to be mine? I'm obviously not going to hit that one. I will say this, though, about that fight. The one thing that I want to see in that fight, DC has always said the best antidote for great jiu-jitsu is great wrestling. And I think we're going to find out. I think we're absolutely going to find out. If Charles can keep Islam on the feet, though, I think it's going to be the Dustin Poirier fight all over again. But I am excited to see that one. But the fight that I'm going to pick now is going to be O'Malley and Jan. We're all big fans of Sugar. We want to see him succeed, and we're about to find out that if there's levels to this shit and where he's at in those levels. With the fight against Jan, he's kind of been avoiding those big fights because he wasn't making the money, but now he's going to be. And so I think Jan, I mean, if he beats Jan, he's fighting for a belt next, right? I mean, that's a fight where you win that, you get to start really making some demands, I think. So I'm really excited to kind of see like just how he does against Jan. The way the Pedro fight went, I think he was turning it on, but who knows if he was. Almost kind of like you said about with Yair. I mean, you don't know. When a fight ends like that, you just don't know. So I'm excited to see O'Malley and Jan just to find out really what Sugar's got.
Yeah, that fight's interesting. I mean, we'll break all these fights down when the time comes, but I mean, to prove that the rankings don't mean anything, you have the 13th guy fighting the ranked number 1 guy. Now, I know like they've really matched up all these bantamweights real quick. I mean, 2 through like 10 has all been matched up here. So there really wasn't. Peter Yan was really the one out in the cold. Didn't have a fight scheduled. They tried to schedule him and Cheeto, but Peter couldn't get that on the schedule. Like the scheduling didn't match up well for him. So now it's in Abu Dhabi. I mean, they're sending Sugar Show to Abu Dhabi, which is Sugar's going to have to leave all the cloud stuff at home because he don't want to get caught in Abu Dhabi with that type of stuff. But I mean, it's going to be a huge, huge show for Sugar Show. I mean, this is a huge step up. I mean, skipping everybody else. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, okay, Sugar, this is the time, and the UFC is going to let you try to put your money where your mouth is. And, is he going to be the next big guy? Like, I mean, they've been talking this guy up, and we've been kind of, we've all three kind of been on the train of the Sugar train here. And I mean, Peter Yan, I'm a huge Peter Yan fan. I think he's an absolute stud, and Peter Yan will and can derail that train bad. I mean, it could be bad for Sugar Show, but Peter Yan will stand and bang with Sugar, and that could also, that's where Sugar's bread and butter is. So it'll be an interesting fight. So the fight, like, I like both those fights, but the fight that maybe I just think that has, you guys, obviously as a wrestling fan, I'm a big storyline guy. And the fight that has the most storyline is Nate Diaz versus Khamzat. This is Nate Diaz.
That was my second choice.
This is the storyline. Nate Diaz wants out of his contract. He said, I'll fight anybody, anywhere. Finally come out and say, I'll fight anybody, anywhere, any day. So then they're feeding them to the guy, the Wolf, the guy that they want to be the next big star. The last 2 fights that Nate Diaz has fought, the last two fighters he's fought, guess what? That guy got a title shot off of beating unranked Nate Diaz. So they're trying to make Khamzat the next big star. And they're hoping Khamzat, they're feeding him to the Wolf. They're going to put it on a shitty pay-per-view as the main event because there ain't going to be any other card. They're going to try to dick Nate Diaz around. But Nate Diaz, anything can happen to Nate Diaz. He could win that fight. And then he could give the old double birds to Dana White and on his way out and go beat up Jake Paul next summer or in the fall. Like this storyline to me is incredible. Nate has been wanting to ask for a fight. They weren't going to give him a fight, but his contract's ending in October, so the timeline has to happen. They're going to give him the Wolf. He wouldn't sign for a bigger deal. Nate Diaz said that they tried to give him a deal. Ariel Helwani's reported that they offered him top 2 money in the company, and Nate still said, nah, I want to get the F out of here. I'm gone. So, and it'll be interesting how the UFC handles that. Like, Are they going to promote it as Nate Diaz's last fight? And I mean, this is literally like WWE, Vince McMahon coming out saying, if you want the title shot, Stone Cold, you got to beat The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match, and then a Buried Alive match, and then you got Kane in a tug, like that's exactly what this fight is. So as the wrestling fan in me, sign me up for Nate Diaz versus Khamzat Chimaev. All right, so hey boys, let's get down to brass knuckles here. It's UFC London. This card is absolutely stacked. I mean, I just said how crappy the Nate Diaz card's going to be. This card's probably, to me, top to bottom, better than next week's UFC. Is it 279 card? It's going to be better than that. I mean, this card's stacked pretty much top to bottom without a title here. So, Kenny, as the reigning defending champion of the Pick'ems here, the first fight on the card, we got number 8 Paul Craig versus number 9 Volkan Ozdemir. Oh, I probably butchered that. Paul Craig is 16-4-1, won 4 in a row. This is sub TKO sub. And Paul Craig's plus 140, Volkan's minus 165. He's lost his last 2. Now, his last 2, he did lose to Yuri, the champ, and Ankalaev, who's another title contender. So, I mean, it's not like he's losing to chumps here. So, Kenny, break it down for us.
Yeah, so we're going to hit the dog of the card early on this one. And I think Paul Craig's going to take this one. I'm a big Paul Craig guy. I like the fact that he pretty much tells everybody, I'm going to take you down and I'm going to submit you, and that's what it's going to be. You called out some TKO victories in there. I think one of those was Jamal Hill, and part of that was he broke his arm. Yeah. So I think that's why I like Paul Craig. Like you said, Volkan's lost his last 2. Now everybody loses to Yuri, it seems like, so it's not really a big deal. But the big thing about Paul Craig is if he wins, it's performance of the night. I mean, that's 3 of his last 4 fights. He had performance of the night bonus, and one of those was a loss. So I'm pretty yeah, it's my dog of the card. So, I mean, I'm pretty confident in that one. So I'm going to go with Paul Craig.
Craig?
So I 100% agree with Kenny here. I think that Paul Craig is kind of establishing himself as a problem in the division. His last 6 fights, he's 5-0-1, and he's finished all 5 of those victories. And he looks very comfortable in the octagon right now. And I know that he's a slight underdog on this card, but I'm going early with my lock of the week because I have Paul Craig as my lock of the week. I just think at some point in the fight he gets it on the mat, and at that point, I mean, he's arguably one of, if not the best in the division right now. He's established himself as a problem, and I think he's going to win this fight by submission.
Yeah, so I guess I should have broke down the rules for any newcomers joining us. So we each get 1 point again for our picks. You get 2 points for your lock of the night and 2 points for your dog of the night. So there's 6 fights on this card. So you guys can do the math because I suck at it. But I'm kind of with Kenny here. This is my dog. This is my dog on the card. I was surprised Paul Craig was the underdog. I had to double check multiple sites to make sure that Paul Craig was. I thought it was a misprint, because how is a guy that has won 4 in a row and just talked about all the finishes and facing off a guy who's lost his last 2, and it's number 8 versus number 9. But hey, I'll take it. Give me Paul Craig as my dog of the night. Lock it in, boys. I like Paul Craig. He's also great off his back. Probably the best fighter, one of the best fighters, especially the best light heavyweight off his back. I mean, so you can't just take him down and hope that you're gonna win. I mean, we saw what he did to old Hill, broke his arm, like Kenny said, in one of them TKOs. Hill was just like, his arm was just laying there like this. So it was an incredible fight. But yeah, I love Paul Craig. If you missed it yesterday, Paul Craig got the war paint on. He is ready, amped up. I was excited. So give me Paul Craig here. All right, moving to our next fight. We got the flyweight women's battle. Molly McCann coming off that vicious KO the last time they were in London. The crowd's going to be behind her. She's 12-4 She's won her last two. She is the favorite, heavy favorite, minus 400. She's facing Hannah Goldie. She's 6-2. She's 1-2 in the UFC, and she's plus 310. So Craig, I will go to you this time. Who do you like in this fight?
I'm riding the hot train here in London, and I'm going with Molly McCann to win the fight. I just think she's a little more seasoned, I guess you would say, and she's kind of riding a hot streak right now. She's going to have the crowd behind her back, I mean, Goldie's got some skill, man. I don't know a lot about her. I looked up a little bit, and she looks like she's got some skill. But like you said, she's 1-2 in the UFC. McCann's on a 2-fight win streak, coming off the big knockout, and she's fighting in London. I mean, so she's a heavy favorite, and that's the way that I'm going with this fight.
Yeah, me too. I think if you look at it, it's easy to take Molly. I'm going to say something that I'm going to hate ever doing later. She's my lock of the card. When I made that pick, I filled these out on Tuesday. I know she wasn't minus 400 or whatever it is whenever I made that pick. She was minus 270, and I was like, oh, I'll take that or whatever it was. And I hate picking somebody that's that big of a favorite, but I already had it wrote down, and I won't pick Patty. So as my lock, I can't do that. So I'm going to go with Meatballs, my lock. But now she's on a 2-5 win streak, like you guys said. Huge knockout. She's performance of the night. She loves fighting at home. It really means a lot to her. So I think it's kind of easy to go with Molly in that one.
I was gonna have Molly as my lock, but I'm gonna change my lock now since we can't pick the same underdog, same dog, same lock. So I'm gonna change my lock for later in the show. But I have Molly McCann too. I mean, this is prime. The UFC's feeding poor Hannah Goldie to the wolf here in her hometown. I mean, they just want Molly to get another vicious highlight reel knockout. They're trying to build her up. I mean, she's lost some fights in the UFC, but I mean, she just lost one of her losses to Tyler Santos, and we just saw what Tyler Santos did to the champion Shevchenko, the Bullet. So I mean, it's not like she's out here hauling Molly McCann, the meatballs, losing to scrubs here. She's a tough SOB. And she's just not going to lose in London. I mean, she's not. Now we might get to somebody else later on here that might, but we're all three. Lock it in. We're all three on the meatball, Molly McCann. All right. Our next fight is another light heavyweight fight. Nikita Krylov is ranked number 11 here in this division, 27-9. Is the favorite at minus 200, but has lost his last 3 of the last 4. He lost to Paul Craig and Ankalev as well. So again, he's not just losing to scrubs either, but he's facing the former lightweight contender coming back after almost a 2+ year hiatus, Alexander Gustafsson. I mean, the man needs no introduction. I mean, we know that remember the John Jones fight, and what he did with John Jones several years ago. 18-7. He's plus 170. He is coming in as the underdog. He hasn't fought at light heavyweight since 2019. He's coming back, trying to get back on the train. They're feeding him a good contender here to try to get back in the rankings. Kenny, is it going to be flashes of Gustafsson and back in the old days, or is it old man Gustafsson here?
Man, just for nostalgia's sake, man, I got to take Gustafsson in this one, man. Like, I know, like you said, like Nikita Krylov, he's lost to good dudes, and I don't want to take nothing away from him, but he ain't won in 2 years. Gustafsson ain't fought in 2 years. Hell, give me Alexander Gustafsson in that one. He's not coming back from nothing. And I know, like, I kind of said the same thing about Joanna, and then she came back and took a beating. So I don't want to get caught in that train too much, but at the same time, like, you got to think Gustafsson's, he's not just coming back for nothing. He's not coming back for just the check. So you got to think he's got something left in the tank and something he kind of wants to prove to everybody. So I'm going to pick him to prove it.
Craig?
I'm going the other way on this one. Like you said, we haven't seen Krylov win a fight in 2 years. We haven't seen Gustafsson win a fight in 4 or 5 years. Krylov, like you said, he hasn't been losing to chumps, but the spot that he's in right now, like, if you lose this fight, I mean, we might see outside of the rankings. You know what I mean? This is a big fight for him. I think he's got a lot on the line, and I mean, I'm picking him. I think, I mean, like we said, we haven't seen Gustafsson in the ring in a long time. This isn't the guy that fought John Jones. This isn't, I mean, I'm not riding that train in this.
Yeah, I'm taking Nikita Kroloff as well. I'm not falling for this nostalgia factor here. Gustafsson best days. I fell for it with Joanna. I'm not doing it with Gustafsson. I have a hard time taking a fighter who left the weight division, thinks that they're going to move up or down, gets knocked out, or I mean beat down in that heavyweight fight, and then it's like, oh, I made the wrong decision. I need to come back down. Like, it means like your brain, you're just searching, right? You're like, you think going heavyweight was going to be the answer. It's not the answer. Oh, let me go back down to light heavyweight. Maybe this will be the answer. I'm trying to refine myself. I like Kroloff. This is going to be kind of put him a nice signature win here for Kroloff, I think. So lock it in for me, Nikita Kroloff. So it's me and Craig. You're on the Kroloff train, right? Is that what you said? So it's all right. So that's the first fight we've all differed on here is Kroloff Gustafsson fight. All right. So next one is London's own. I mean, the crowd is going to be going crazy for this fight. Is Paddy Pimblett, 18-3. He's the minus 260, 2-0 in the UFC, and he's facing a man who will tap you out, beat you, and then twerk on you. Jordan Levitt, who's 10-1. He's underdog at plus 210. He's 3-1 in the UFC. Craig, who's dance moves? Who's dancing? Because Patty said he'll teabag Mr. Levitt if he wins. So who's twerking and who's teabagging here in this fight?
I'm gonna take Paddy Pimblett in this fight, man. And this is a dangerous fight for him. I've actually where I've got it written down on my picks here, I've got it going split decision. Levitt's a little unorthodox, and Paddy gets a little kind of chaotic sometimes in there. He likes to grapple, but sometimes when he's on his feet, he gets a little wild. He gets a little crazy. And I've got this as a close fight. It's the London card, so I think if it goes to a decision and it's a close fight, it's going to go Paddy's way, and that's the way that I've got it going.
So, Kenny, I mean, this is the proper step up for Paddy here. Jordan Levitt's no scrub. I mean, we've seen him against two pretty walk cake fights. He got rocked in both those fights. I mean, is Jordan going to be twerking on Paddy here and spoil everybody's London card?
Whenever they first dropped this, the odds this week, whenever I was making my notes, Jordan Levitt was going to be my dog at the card at first. I've changed my mind over this week, and I don't know if it's going to be a signature win in the form of a domination or anything, but I am going to pick Paddy in this one. I just think that kind of the way he's acting this week. Now I understand that part of that is just an act, part of that's selling a fight, everything else, but he's very confident. Now Jordan Levitt is no chump. I mean, he, like you said, he has got rocked, but he's come back from all of those getting rocked as well. I mean, he's a tough dude. He's not just going to roll over. I think that he's going to understand that there's a chip on his shoulder a little bit, because you got to think that almost like Goldie, I mean, you kind of got fed to Paddy, at home to get him a win in front of his crowd. So that's got to put a little chip on his shoulder as well. So Jordan Levitt's not going to go easy, but I will take Paddy to just kind of have the confidence, and just if he can just not get rocked when he's swinging for the fences like a psycho, then I think he'll be all right. I think if he can just tough it out, I think he'll be all right. Like Craig said, decision's going to go his way no matter what in London. They don't want that place to burn down. So he'll win a decision, but I'd like to see him try to go for a finish and not fight for that. I don't want him to see him be scared of fighting somebody. Like you said, it is a step up for him, but I'd like to see him really show off in that step up and not shy away from it.
Yeah, so I always like to teabag people instead of twerking on people. So you know who I'm going with. Lock it in as my lock of the week. Paddy the Baddy. Paddy the Baddy. Paddy the Baddy. It's gonna win. Lock it in as my lock of the week. So I mean, that crowd is gonna be going wild, and I can't wait for it. I mean, the last UFC London card, I had goosebumps and chills because that crowd was going absolutely insane for Paddy, and he just feeds off that energy. And we know, and just like in any other sport, we know when that home crowd is just cooking for you, it gives you that extra juice. And I mean, as Patty said, Jordan Levitt's only fought in the UFC in the Apex, in the quiet arena of the Apex where you could hear a pin drop. He ain't going to be able to hear that pin drop or anything when Patty the Baddy's theme music is hitting, baby. So lock it in, my lock of the week. Patty the Baddy. Patty the Baddy. All right. Moving to our next.
No. Hey, hold on. What do you think Jordan Levitt's going to do when Patty's walking out and that is just going off and shaking the place? When he can feel it vibrating in his feet, like you said, he's only ever fought in the Apex. You know, that's a huge point. What is he going to do when that place is an earthquake?
He might poo himself a little bit. I mean, maybe he might.
That's what Patty said. Didn't Patty say it's the first time you're going to see somebody shit themselves?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, he might start twerking to that theme music in that chant. I mean, it's possible.
Good luck.
It's possible. You know, so I just think that place is just going to go nuts. I don't know how good Patty Pimblett's going to be in this lightweight division, but I think he's going to, if he continues to grow and get better. I mean, he's been in some wars before the UFC in you know, the fight cage in Europe. So, I mean, he's got a good following there. I mean, obviously that's his hometown, and they're gonna show out for Mr. Patty the Baddy.
Yeah, if Molly knocks out Goldie first, and then Patty comes out for this fight, that place might be on fire before he ever comes out the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. What if Molly gets upset? I mean, Patty's gonna have to come in and save the day almost, you know, so they don't burn the place down in anger.
If she loses, I really look for him to kind of get upset. Like, that's going to take a lot of wind out of his sails. They've been hanging out a lot this week. A lot of their confidence has been feeding off each other. That's going to be a big deal if she loses. That's a huge upset too. That'd be a huge deal if she loses right before he fights. Let's hope not. We all need it for the picks, but that'll be a huge deal.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
all right. So our co-main event here. Short notice fight. Jack Hermanson was scheduled to fight Darren Till. Mr. Glass, Darren Till, just pulled out undisclosed injury. Jack kind of said, hey, I think he was like, I had a feeling this was going to happen. He is now going to take on Chris Curtis, unranked, but Chris Curtis is a veteran in this game, folks. If you get a chance, find Chris Curtis's story. Just a little background before we get into it. Chris Curtis retired, was out of the UFC, retired, got knocked out viciously in PFL, and then is now back. He's took 3 bunch of short notice fights, and now he's back in the UFC making money. Just a real likable guy. So it's a middleweight fight here. Jack Hermanson ranked number 8. He's 27-7. His last fights, he's 2-3 in his last fights, but his last 5, look at this. It's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So that's Jack Hermanson's last few fights, his last 5 fights there. And then Chris Curtis, this is a pick'em fight, straight across the board. Nobody knows. UFC's, everybody's got this, just a straight pick'em. Chris Curtis, 3-0 back in the UFC, 29-8. He's won 5 in a row now. 2 of those obviously outside of the UFC. So Chris Curtis, he's found something and is feeling well. He's a real likable guy. Craig, I mean, is this where the Chris Curtis good train ends and it's Jack's time, or is Chris Curtis here continuing the rise and gets a number ranked next to his name coming soon?
So I was really torn on this fight, man, because I like Chris Curtis's story and I like what he's done since he's been back in the UFC, man. He's on a hot streak, and this is a fight. If Chris Curtis wins this fight, he's probably in the rankings. I mean, for sure. Jack's a tough out though, man. I mean, Hermanson's a tough dude. He's been taking a lot of high level fights. And the stat that you just dropped, man, was a stat that I looked at too, and it was kind of my deciding factor because Hermanson's last 6 fights, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So I guess that means that he's due for a win. So I'm picking Jack Hermanson to win by decision.
Kenny?
Yeah, same. I got Jack by decision. I'm a big Chris Curtis guy. You know what? How can you not love a story like that? You know, it's one of the comebacks of the world. So I'm a big Chris Curtis guy. But man, like we say, there's levels to this, and Jack only fights tough guys. If you beat Jack, your next fight's the #1 contender fight. You know, and that means something. You know, he's the top 5 gatekeeper for a reason, and I think that's not really changing. And he bounces back well. You know, it's win loss for a reason. You know, he doesn't take 2 in a row. He gets in the gym and he gets back to work and he comes out and he gets a win. Now he can't build a streak, but he does go back in and he gets that win. So, and he only loses to tough guys. You know, you can't just roll him over. I'm a little worried because Sean really made his wrestling not look very great when he's kind of looked really good against everybody else. So that worries me a little bit because that's the one thing he always had to go get that decision over everybody. But I do pick him to get the decision win tonight as well.
And Chris Curtis is Sean Strickland's teammate. They're teammates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure Sean was in there helping Chris out as much as he can, obviously. I'm on the same. I mean, it's in Europe. This is going to be Jack Hermansson's background. I love Chris Curtis just like you guys. His story's great, but there is levels to this game. And Jack Hermansson is an elite fighter. I love Chris Curtis. I'm going to pick Jack Hermansson here, but you'll catch me rooting for Chris Curtis and continue this story of his going forward. But lock it in. We're all three on Mr. Jack the Joker, Jack Hermansson. Give it up for Jack Hermansson. I think he'll win this one. All right, boys. It's our main event. It's time. The crowd's going to be going wild here. We have number 6, Tom Aspinall. He's the favorite at 12-2, 5-0 in the UFC. And he's only been past the first round one time. Then you have Mr. Curtis Razor Blades, 16-3. He's the underdog at plus 115. He's won 4 of his last fights. This guy only loses to Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis when he's got his eyes rolling the back of his head because he's been knocked out. So Kenny, as the reigning champ, who do you like? Is it Razor Blades? This is a title eliminator fight. I mean, the winner probably gets maybe a chance, can make themselves a chance for the interim title here because the heavyweight division is real murky still. So who are you taking here? Is it Blades or Aspinall?
Well, Curtis Blades is 7-1 since he lost to Francis Ngannou. That one loss was Derek Lewis. Yeah, he got caught, but he was dominating every second of that fight up until the one moment that he got that uppercut and went to sleep for a week and a half. He has no issues going the distance. Now, we're going to find out a lot about Tom Aspinall, I think, in this fight. I think he's going to have to fight past the first round to beat Curtis Blades. I think that's something I think we could probably say with a little confidence is that this isn't going to be a first-round finish. And Blades has still shown that he can finish guys. You know, if you look at his track record, it's not just decision wins. He does still go out there and finish guys. He does take you down, and he does try to hit you with them razor blade elbows. But Tom Aspinall's 5-0 in the UFC. He's got 4 performance of the night bonuses. He's a huge, huge striker with monster hands and has no issue going to the ground. He's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was a little kid, basically. His dad coached jiu-jitsu. His whole family does jiu-jitsu. He has no issue going to the ground. Now, Blades is a great wrestler, so that's going to be a neutralizing fact. But is that going to keep them on their feet and give Aspinall the edge up top? I'm going to take Aspinall in this one. I do think it's going to be a decision win. I think he's going to have to get tested, kind of like Chimaev did when he fought Burns. You know, you get up there, you got to fight some of the tougher guys that don't go down easy. But I do think that he's going to get the win. Decision's going to go his way at home anyway. I just think he's a younger, hungrier kid on the way up, and I do think Blades is still a guy, but I think he's more of a top 5 gatekeeper guy rather than a top 3 gatekeeper guy. I think Aspinall is kind of a top 3 type guy.
Craig?
So I really like Tom Aspinall, man. And he's 5-0. I mean, he's looked great. He looks comfortable, and he's never been outside of the first round. But that's part of what worries me, man, because like you said, this isn't you're not gonna finish Curtis Blades in the first round, you don't think? I mean, I'd be extremely surprised if this fight didn't go to the second round. You know what I mean? we haven't seen Aspinall fight these, top 5 type guys. We haven't seen him outside the first round. So this is going to be a huge challenge for him. And the only things that we've seen stop Curtis Blades in the UFC is a man named Francis Ngannou and a Derek Lewis right hand. And those two things stop a lot of people. And outside of that, Curtis Blades, he showed in his last fight that his stand-up game's a little bit better. We know he's dangerous on the ground. And this is where I lock in my dog of the week, boys. I'm taking Curtis Blades to the place is going to be rocking. London's going to be loving it. And Curtis Blades is going to take the gas out of the place right at the end. I'm riding Curtis Blades.
So I have been on this show. I have stated numerous times that I believe Tommy Aspinall is a future UFC heavyweight champion. I'll state it again and again. I know Curtis Blades is, Craig just alluded to his last, knocked out Chris Dukakis or Dukakis, whatever you want. He can't even say his last name because it doesn't even matter because he's still looking for his jaw in Cleveland, Ohio. The thing of it is Tom Aspinall, we haven't seen a lot of him because he's putting people away. This is his level of competition, but we saw what he did to Volkov the last time in March in that card. And Volkov has fought the who's who in the UFC heavyweight division. Remember, he was really beating Derek Lewis until Derek Lewis caught him. Blades out wrestled Volkov for 5 rounds or whatever it was and just threw him all the way around. But he knocked out Tom Aspinall. Can do it standing up. He can do it on the ground. And I just want to hear the crowd. Tommy Aspinall, Tommy Aspinall, Tommy Aspinall, Tommy Aspinall. Lock it in. Tommy Aspinall. That's it, folks. Tommy Aspinall is taking in the main event. He's going to be fighting for the title. He's probably maybe 1 to 2 fights away. Again, let's recap and then we'll talk about this heavyweight division before we get out of here. So to recap, me and Kenny's dog of the weeks, both Paul Craig. We're all 3 on Paul Craig. Kenny's lock is Molly McCann. We're all 3 on the meatball. Then me and Craig are on Nikita Krylov, and Kenny's on Gufferston, taking the nostalgia factor here. We're all 3 on Patty Pimblett. I got the lock on Patty. We're all 3 on Mr. Hermanson. Craig has taken Razor Blades as his dog of the week, and me and Kenny are on Tommy Aspinall. Craig, who was your lock? Your lock was Paul Craig.
Yes.
Right? So okay. All right. So we're all 3, but me and Kenny took him as our dog of the week. You got him as your lock of the week. Ooh.
When Craig said Craig was his lock of the week, I was thinking, man, he took an underdog for his lock. And I was trying to figure out, I thought he was going to pick Patty to lose. And then when he didn't pick Patty, I was like, man, he does not really think Blades is going to beat Aspinall, does he? And I'll be damned if he did not just pick Curtis Blades to try to get that belt back.
The belt will be on the line, folks.
It'll be on the line, but it'll still be on the shoulder too.
Goldie is coming home finally to the Bodkin Show. 3rd time's the charm here for Bodkins. Craig's trying to regain it. Kenny's trying to keep it. We'll see what happens. We do have, for all our fans and anybody watching the show, we do have an ESPN Pick'em. Just go to the UFC London card Pick'em, make your picks, search for the group Bodkins, the Bodkin Show. Into your picks. See if you can beat us 3. There is no belt for you guys, but we'll give you a shout out on the show tomorrow if you beat us. If you're the top dog in the group. So before we go, let's talk a little bit about this heavyweight division because we just alluded to this is a title contender fight. It doesn't seem like there's not one of the fights that they haven't announced is Stipe Jones yet for maybe an interim. They're not even talking to Francis. Nobody even knows what the hell's going on here. So Kenny, what should the UFC do here with the UFC? The only other heavyweight title fight, contender fight that's coming up is Ciryl Gane versus Tuivasa. So what should the UFC do here, and how do you see this playing out?
Oh, well, it's kind of already been teased and alluded to. I think Jones and Stipe is going to be the way that it goes for the interim belt. I know it's not announced, it's not on paper or whatever, but that's going to be the fight that it is. Jones has already said it on Twitter. Dana's already said he thinks that's what it's going to be. So that's definitely going to be the fight that happens. Depending on what Francis is doing injury-wise, Tyson Fury-wise, that winner will fight the winner of Ty and Gon if Francis ain't back yet. But if he is, and there'll be a unification bout as soon as he gets back. But I think Jones and Stipe is the easy way to go, kind of the only way to go. You got to get them two guys in there. Stipe's getting old. Jones is too damn good to still be sitting there. So if he moved up to heavyweight for a reason. It was for the fight for a belt. Go get this over with, and they both make a shit ton of money. Keeps the heavyweight division going with the monster fight till Francis gets back. I think that's the way to go.
Craig?
Yeah, I agree, man. Jones and Stipe sounds like that's the interim belt. Like Kenny said, we don't know what's going on with Francis. He's been battling the injury. Is he going to go fight Tyson Fury? He's been, having his disputes with Dana. So Jones and Stipe is the easy way. That's the money ticket. That's the pay-per-view that sells. Like Kenny said, the winner of Gon and Shui probably fights the winner, but then I guess this Aspinall Blades winner, kind of where do they go from there? Are they who are they fighting next? That's kind of where the question arises, and a lot of it's still the time frame on Jones and Stipe, so maybe the Gon and Tuivasa winner fights the winner of this Aspinall and Blades fight as a title contender, just because we don't know how long this Stipe Jones stuff's going to drag out and where Francis comes back in. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, for an interim belt, Jones Stipe is the way to go.
Yeah, so I think I'm kind of with you guys here. I think it'll be the winner of this Blades Aspinall. So I should say Tommy Aspinall will face the winner of Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa. They'll be the number one contender, while Jones and Stipe fight for the interim title. And then they'll figure out what they're doing with what happens with Francis, because Francis can leave the UFC at the end of January. His contract is over. It doesn't matter. And I don't even think I don't know. There's been no reports of like a new contract signed. They're working on things. He is bound and determined to go fight Tyson Fury and make a shit ton of money, which, I mean, as three broke kids from Missouri, we can all agree that, hey, go make your money. You know what I mean? Go make that life-changing money because he's a broke kid from Africa. And I'd rather be a broke kid from Missouri than a broke kid from Africa, because I know his broke butt had to come from way worse than what we've had, and we would go chase the money as well. So tip your cap to Francis, go get your money, then come back. And then if it's Jones who's got the belt, or one of these other guys, whether it's Tom Aspinall or Ciryl Gane or Tai Tuivasa or even Stipe, fight them and then go from there. So I think that's kind of the best laid out plan. I think the best time for Jones Stipe would be the MSG card in November. I mean, they're already doing a huge card in October. And then you just get into November. That's usually when the MSG card is. I mean, Stipe versus Jones headlines, it doesn't really even matter which is much under what the co-mains are and things like that, because that would be a big enough headliner for MSG for anybody to buy. So that'll be one of the bigger pay-per-views, and maybe even get it depending on the timeline. I'm not sure when that Ciryl Gane Bam Tai Tuivasa fight is. I think it's coming up.
It's coming up.
So I mean, maybe the timeline matches to where you even get that as your co-main,
So it looks like it's September 3rd.
So that's in September. So I doubt they would be ready. They wouldn't be ready by November. Maybe I doubt it. Just depends on how that fight goes. But folks, Craig, go ahead. I mean, where can everybody find you at? And plug you. Go ahead and get those plugs for us.
Yeah, man, it's just Craig _W_A_K. It's Craig with a K. Follow me on Twitter, and catch me, here on the UFC shows on the BodkinShow.
All right, Kenny, go ahead, man. Mr. Smoking Amigo, still cooking up that mean brisket. So tell people where they can get that mean brisket at.
You pretty much find us anywhere at Smoking Amigos 573. It's all of our socials. You can get a hold of us anywhere on there. All of our emails, everything at Smoking Amigos 573. You can't miss us.
All right, folks, before we get out of here, again, two things. Number one, make sure you head over to the ESPN Pick'em, find us, battle us in the Pick'em show. Two, we'll be back here tomorrow, us three. The belt will be online. We have a huge announcement tomorrow on the UFC London post show. Huge announcement coming here. The Bodkin Show, Kenny and Craig, we're up to something. We're cooking up something, you know, more than Kenny's mean best brisket in the Midwest, guaranteed. We are cooking something. It won't be quite as good as that brisket, but it'll be damn good, folks. Again, make sure you're subscribing, like, share on the Bodkin Show. Let's talk sports, the Sports Buffoons. Also, we're on Spotify and iTunes, where all you can get your podcasts. So just search for us. This episode will be uploaded here just a little bit. I'm going to upload it. We'll be back tomorrow for our UFC London post show. We're going to find out who's taking home that title. Is it going to be Ann Still? Probably not. Is it going to be Mr. Craig with a K? Probably not. Is it going to come home to Bodkins? Yes, it is. That's the show, folks. Tune in. We'll be live tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central. Have a huge announcement. Thank you for tuning in. What?
Hey, you got one of these?
Thanks
I'm just
a lot,
letting you
folks.
borrow it.
If I can get out of this full screen here, I don't know how exit full. I'm clicking exit full screen so I can get off this. We're still live. Yeah. There we go. In broadcast. Here we go. Got 2 comments. I missed it. Oh.